Hello, and welcome to the Table and Well podcast. I'm Tennyson.
And I'm Janelle. Thank you for joining us as we discuss topics and give practical tools that help you live, grow, and be in healthy, joy-filled relationship with God, yourself, and others.
For more information and resources, or if you're looking for coaching, connection, and community, visit tableandwell.org. We hope you enjoy this podcast. Hello, and thank you for joining us today on the Table and Well podcast. This is episode number 28 of season 3, and we are continuing our Wisdom Keeper series, and we're concluding our conversation with Chris and Jen Coursey from Thrive Today. And from the last few episodes that we have had with them in this conversation, there's been so much wisdom and so many nuggets just on elders and what it looks like to be an elder, growing into becoming an elder. You know, Chris and Jen talked about how they are entering this stage, quote unquote, officially of eldership because your youngest son has become 13, which is adults, if you are familiar with the maturity model. And so we've talked a lot about just what does it look like to grow in becoming an elder? What does it look like to lead from love instead of fear and leading a community in that way? And today, I'm real excited about this one because we're going to be talking about elders as gentle protectors and what it looks like, because there's can be this misnomer that we are just going to protect you from pain. But we hit that really hard in the first few moments of this podcast. So I'm excited for you guys to listen. So let's jump right in to the conclusion of our conversation with Chris and Jen Coursey.
So Jim's been talking a lot about this concept of gentle protectors versus predators. And I think this kind of comes into play here about, or could come into play around gentle protectors being ones who make sure no pain happens. Like it could be misperceived as that.
Right.
Like we gently protect against all pain.
Yes.
Whereas that's not really the case. So speak to that. What would a gentle protector look like in all these things that we've talked about today, who is not fear-driven and who is not necessarily a pain avoider?
Yeah, I think of some times in my life where people, who I'd consider to be elders, they saw something in me that was slipping or drifting, and they very relationally talked to me about it. And at first, I didn't even realize they were like pointing something out because it was just so life-giving to interact. But as we interacted, they were seeing something in me that, they wanted to encourage me in or to even help me recognize the rock in my shoe. And I remember feeling so grateful that they cared enough to lovingly connect with me and to talk with me and use that curiosity to help me see it. Like, oh, wow, I did. Yeah. I didn't even realize that. And it honestly felt like they were giving me a gift, but I know if they handled it another way, it could have felt like I was roadkill after the interaction. But they were a gentle protector. I felt seen, but I also just felt cared for and kind of shepherded through that. And it was someone that really cared enough to take the time and just talk with me about it. And I think they were seeing me from God's perspective. So I didn't feel like beat up, but I felt like, wow, this is really good. This is really helpful. So being that gentle protector doesn't mean that we shy away from the hard stuff, but we bring that tenderness and grace and love and joy and peace into those places where even maybe when we're feeling we're being corrected in some way, we feel loved and valued, like somebody's on our side helping us to become the best version of ourselves. They're seeing me from God's perspective, and in a sense, they're shepherding me.
Yeah.
And it's been so life-giving, and I've wanted to share that and pass that on because it's so impacted my own personal growth and my marriage and my family. The gentle protector ways are life-giving. Even in the hard stuff, you still feel loved and valued while we look at maybe some stuff that could be hard to look at.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
It's really
think
good.
if I were to summarize what you said in a phrase or so, is that gentle protectors aren't afraid to call us back to who God made us to be,
Yeah.
even if it creates pain in us and creates pain in the relationship. But they're not afraid of that pain, and they're not placing pain on us, they are joining us in the pain. So gentle
That's really
protectors
good.
also are willing to share the pain that they create and willing to share pain with others, whereas predators want to put their pain on you so that you're the only one feeling pain and they don't have to feel any.
That's really good.
Great
That's
point.
that's that's really good. And yeah, I
That's really good. Yeah,
yeah,
I think about that. Chrissy used the word shepherd, and I'm a big visual person, and I think about that I mean, we've lost the concept of a shepherd in modern day and age of what that really looked like, but it was about not only protecting the flock from outside threats, but
Yeah.
also protecting the flock from inside threats of their own stupidity, for the lack of a better word,
Right.
right? Like
yep,
their own choice, the flock's choice to run off or do
Yep.
things that could um limit its safety or the safety of the group. And but it was done from such a tender place, and I think the word tender is
Yeah.
so key here. Of it, for the shepherd, it wasn't about his own notoriety. It really was about the flock itself and
yeah,
making sure that they were safe and healthy. And Jen, where you talked about, sharing that pain of, I'm willing to get between you and the predator if that's what is needed, or I'm willing to bury you on my back if that's what we're going to do to help you to safety. Those are some things I think we need to bring back into our communities, those concepts and those pictures.
yeah. And I think this is also, it can also, again, if you have elders that are um, fear driven,
Yeah.
then it also can flip the other way too. And so you want to definitely be careful with that, because I can't tell you how many times that we would hear places that would say, well, we're just telling the truth in love.
Yeah.
Mm,
Right.
And it's like, okay, well, really, is it love? Because
Yeah.
I'm not really feeling love.
Feeling it.
yeah.
Then they use the story in the Bible where I think it was David who was being a shepherd, and he had the one sheep that wandered off, and he broke the leg of the sheep, and but he carried it on his neck, and then he walked with him
Yeah.
through the growth, in that. And so, but I think people will take that and say, well, I'm just telling the truth in love. So we're just going to break your leg, and then you go over there
Right.
and heal,
Yeah.
and then
Right.
come back to me when, you think you
Yeah.
can walk okay. And,
Right.
and,
Right.
and that's
And the
not
key
being
part
it.
is that he carried, right?
He
Like
cared, right.
Yes.
He
it
bit
That's
caused
right.
him to bear an extra weight
for a
when,
while. Yeah.
I
yeah,
love that.
when that
I
sheep
love
could have
that.
walked, and instead he chose to do, yeah, to
Well,
carry.
yeah,
That's
because it goes to, like you were saying, it was for the protection of that one particular sheep, so
Yeah.
that sheep wouldn't wander off and be eaten, but also for the protection of the flock, because when that sheep wandered off, the shepherd who loves that sheep has to leave the flock to go
Yes.
get the sheep, and
Right.
then now the flock is at risk. And so it is this idea of, we're going to bring, there's pain there, but we also know that pain is really the only thing that causes transformation, that will cause us to change. And so the pain is needed for growth to happen.
Yes.
And how we approach that, and how we walk alongside, and how we mentor and connect in that pain, is what I believe makes an elder really a true elder, in that sense of, oh, I'm going to walk with you through this. And that lesson can be learned down for then parents. We lead by, one thing we say is, you lead by modeling an invitation. And
Yeah.
so you model this, and then you invite people into that space. So now as parents, I'm seeing an elder do that. So now it's like, oh, well, now my kids, I can use this. I can actually walk with my kids through pain. Um,
Yeah.
Not pain for pain's sake, but
Yep.
pain
That's
for
right.
growth's sake. And
Yes.
so, yeah, it's
So
really, really,
good.
yeah,
Yeah. I love that.
yeah. Um, so kind of on that same note, one thing for elders is that usually, and hopefully, if you have really true elders, their heart is to um, mentor and raise the next level of maturity, the group behind them into the next level of maturity, and kind of pass that on. So they're being mentoring, they're mentors, they're counselors, coaches, kind of in that role. And so, and they want to do that for the next generation. So what advice would you give to elders who want to step into that space of leading and mentoring and raising up that next generation? What would be some advice you'd give them to help them do it?
Yeah, and I would be curious too, even outside of the context of the church, because
Yeah.
I think there's a lot to be said about community as a whole.
Yes.
Yep. Yeah, yeah, there's a lot of richness here, and for elders to know they have life to give. It's actually a need for them. They need to give life. They're in a stage
Yeah.
of life. They have a lot of good things to give. It's actually good for them to give, and everybody needs some love. Everybody needs to feel seen, heard, and understood. And I'd say even keep it simple, inviting people to grab a coffee, inviting, offering to pray with people's families who are going through a hard time. Um, even bringing a meal could be very practical. How can I give some life here in this situation? And and talking to Jesus about, Lord, who is it that I should be paying attention to?
Mm-hmm.
And and Lord, where are those opportunities for me to give some life? Because they have a lot of life to give.
Yeah.
And keeping it simple and practical. For me, it was having coffee with a lot of elder friends. They would, Chris, let's grab coffee. And they knew I was busy as when they were going to ask for, 6 hours or something. They were like, hey, when it works, let's grab coffee. I'd like to take you out for a coffee. Or hey, why don't you and Jen come over and join us for a meal? Let's have dinner. It was so practical,
Mm-hmm.
but yet so incredibly life-giving. And
Yeah.
in those opportunities, they also kind of learn where people are at. What are some of the needs? There's no shortage
That's
of
good.
need.
Mhm.
There's going to be a lot of needs in the community. And it's, talking to Jesus about who are those people that you're tapping me on the shoulder to pay attention to.
That's good.
And I've had that experience in my life where we live here. There's certain people I've come across through interactions and just felt the Lord say, pay attention here. This is
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that's good.
grab coffee with this person.
Yeah.
And it's really a chance to love on people and welcome them in. We'll have them over for a meal or something. And simple and practical, and just knowing they have a storehouse of good things to bring into the lives of other people. They have value and worth,
Mhm.
and find ways to speak a language people will understand for what they need.
Yeah.
And I would say just there's going to be a lot of opportunities that's going to come, and pay attention to those
Yeah.
nudges. God's going to
Yeah.
give some nudges and say, hey, yeah, I want you to pay attention to this
Yeah.
family over here,
I
or
love that because I think it isn't just about like having the answer, knowing what
Right.
everybody needs. I love that back to curiosity around paying attention and then just taking a step to discover and do it relationally, not come
Yeah.
in with I have a hammer and I need a nail and like
Right.
where are the things in this community that I can fix because I'm an
Yeah.
elder and it's my job, but
Right.
my role, but like
Mm-hmm.
but really just creating space to be curious and to see what the Lord highlights. I love that just in
Yeah.
such a simple way. And as you said earlier, being seen and heard is such a vital gift that often there's not enough people giving for us to receive. We're all very busy, especially as parents, doing that for for our kids and for our families. We're seeing and hearing our kids and giving that away often. And so to have people in the community that say, "Hey, I'm gonna take an hour out of my day just to see and hear you today," is invaluable.
It
Yeah.
is. And as you say that, it reminds me of a few elders in our lives. One was an electrician and one was a contractor. And I'm not an electrician or a contractor. And there were times we would just have things happen around the house. Something would go wrong. And somehow the elder would find out something we're navigating, and there's, hey, I'd love to come over and look at that. And it was always like, wow, like I wouldn't expect that. I was going to call and make an
Mm-hmm.
appointment somewhere. And so even for them using their strengths and their
It's
skill
good.
set, they have strengths and skills that a lot of other people might not have.
Right.
And I can remember those interactions where, the friend would come over, work on whatever it was or look at it for us. And it would be a chance to interact. It'd be a chance to
Yeah.
connect. Sometimes they would bring their spouse with them, and it just provided opportunities to interact, and we always just felt so like cared for that someone would even think to do that.
Yeah.
Right.
It was an amazing gift.
That's cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
And my thought would just be like everything he said is wonderful. And on the side of that would be like, you're pouring out a lot. You need peers.
Yeah.
So if you're looking for ways to give to others, also look for ways to like have those peers so that because you don't know what you're doing. I mean, you do, but you don't, right? Like you're
Yeah.
and it helps to learn along other people who are learning alongside, because then it's not so strange that you fell down here. Like, oh yeah, I did that too. You know, like there
Yeah.
it helps to have peers in that process. And so I would encourage people who are considering reaching out to others that they have something to give to also look for others who are doing the same thing that they can kind of be in the boat with.
Yeah.
It's really good.
Yeah.
It's very
That's really
good.
great.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, thank you guys for your
Yeah.
time, and
Yeah.
it's been great.
It's been great. Yeah. Thank you for being here. A lot of nuggets and wisdom here. So I really appreciate you guys taking the time today to talk to us and just to have this conversation. So it's been a pleasure.
Thank
Good
you
to
very
be with you
much.
guys.
Good to be with you. And I love what you're doing. Thank you for being such a valuable resource. The body needs what you're doing, and keep up the good work.
Thanks. You've been listening to the Table and Well podcast. New episodes stream every Tuesday. If you have enjoyed this podcast, please leave us a review to let us know. Also, subscribe on your favorite listening platform to stay up to date on all things Table and Well. To learn more, start your journey, or get information on how Table and Well can help develop your community, family, or teams to be relationally healthy and authentically connected, please go to tableandwell.org/collab to schedule an interest call, or you can email us directly at known@tableandwell.org.